Alright, so obviously Paddy Pimblett versus Ilia Topuria isn't the fight that's happening, alright? But let's be real. There's already a ton of momentum behind it. And it's not just hype out of nowhere. I mean, the UFC didn't even wait. As soon as Topuria knocked out Charles Oliveira, and I'm talking about pure destruction, by the way. Like, we're talking about Thanos snapping him out, the division level obliteration, okay? Joe Rogan pulled Paddy Pimblett into the octagon like it was a WWE segment. And you saw it. The face-off, the push, the tension. It felt like we were setting up the next big fight right there and then. But of course, not everybody's on board with it. Some fans immediately saying, yo, Paddy doesn't deserve this title shot. And I get it. From a pure merit standpoint, sure, he hasn't gone through the same gauntlet guys like Armin or Gamera or even Beneil Dariush went through. But the reality is, this sport is always about merits. It's about moments, storylines, drama, and eyes on the products. And say what you want, Paddy and Topuria already have a built-in rivalry that's been boiling for years, you know? Like, let's rewind for a second. This beef between them, it's not new. It goes all the way back to like, what, 2021 or 2022. Paddy made some disrespectful comments online about Georgians, and Ilia, who fought from Georgia and whose family fled real war, did not take it lightly. Topuria straight up said he was offended on a deep personal level, and the two started beefing hard online. It went from tweets and trash talk to actual physical altercations. Topuria ran up on Paddy in a hotel lobby during UFC London Fight Week, and Paddy threw hand sanitizer at him. That's where the nickname Hand Sanitizer Boy came from. That wasn't staged, that wasn't for the camera, that was legit tension. And now fast forward to UFC 317, Ilia just put on a career-defined performance, knocking out Oliveira, and then Paddy jumped into the cage. Dana was heated. He even said Paddy shouldn't have been in there, and that it stole Topuria's moment. And I agree to that to an extent. It was a little chaotic, but from a marketing standpoint, it worked. People are already talking about it. It's trending. It's a real rivalry with history and emotion. And now the title is on the line. Now let's talk about the logistics of what can come next, because I know a lot of people want to see Arman Tsarukyan to be next in line. And listen, I don't disagree. Arman's a monster, and that win over Charles was dominant. But here's the problem. He missed weight. You know how the UFC operates. Dana doesn't forget that kind of stuff. He's already throwing shades in interviews saying things like, you don't miss weight, then get a title shot. Arman's denying that it was a bad miss or that it affected the fight, but the damage is done. The UFC has seemed to push them into the you gotta earn it again category, kid, at least for now. And as for Justin Gaethje, man, no offense, but I think he's the last person who should be stepping in right now. Yes, he beat Rafael Fiziev in his last fight, but before that, he got folded by Max Holloway. It was an incredible one-sided fight, but it doesn't put you in title contention when you're coming off one win, you know? So here's what I actually think is going to happen. Gaethje versus Arman for the #1 contender spot. I know some people won't love that, especially Arman fans, but it's a more realistic path, because if Arman wins that fight clean, he makes weight, looks dominant, then you cannot deny him the next title shot. And in the meantime, Paddy versus Topuria, let them settle it. It's a grudge match, it's personal, and it's extremely marketable. And honestly, it's perfect timing in my opinion. But alright, let's actually talk about how this matchup plays out, because once you get past all the hype and history, you've got to break down the skills. And look, man, I get it. I know a lot of people are out here saying, bro, Paddy's trash. His striking is garbage. He only beat washed guys. You hear it all the time. Like, people love bringing up the fact that his biggest wins are over dudes like Chandler, Tony Ferguson, and Bobby Green. Fighters who are all clearly past their prime. And trust me, nobody has been more critical of Paddy over the years than me. I've clowned on him. I've doubted him. I've said he wasn't ready for the longest time. But here's the thing, and I'll be real with you. I actually think he's starting to evolve a bit. It kind of pains me to admit it, but there's been improvements. You can see it in the way he approaches his fights now. His distance management has gone a lot better. He's not rushing forward with wild hooks anymore. He's starting to use his reach, control space a little bit more, and actually kick from the outside. And yeah, I know Chandler and Tony aren't elite measuring sticks anymore, but even in those fights, you saw signs. His game planning is sharp, he's more composed, and he's not just that brawling guy anymore, you know, who used to brawl through exchanges like he used to. But at the same time, I gotta keep it real. You know, people are overhyping that Chandler fight just a little bit too much. I keep hearing people saying, yo, Paddy dominated all 3 rounds. I don't know, man. That's a bit of a stretch in my opinion, because I feel like Chandler definitely had some moments. He wasn't out there landing bombs or anything crazy, but he did touch up Paddy here and there. And he even managed to take his back and get him down. And it's not like it was some flawless performance from Paddy. Now, to be fair, Paddy did handle the ground situation pretty well. He didn't panic, he reversed positions pretty quick, threatened some subs, and kept composure. But let's also be honest. Part of that is on Chandler too, because Chandler's fight IQ on the ground is kind of questionable. The guy's explosive, yes, but he's also reckless. And against someone like Paddy, who's slick with his jiu-jitsu, that's going to cost you, you know? So no, I'm not saying that Paddy's a world beater now. I'm not saying that he's some polished technical, fighter who runs this division. But what I'm saying is that he is not the same fighter that he was a couple years ago. He's making adjustments, he's learning, and even if you still think Ilia is going to smoke him, which is totally fair, I think we're going to see more of a competitive fight than people are expecting, in my opinion. Paddy's not just showing up to get knocked out. He's going to try and make this ugly, awkward, and unpredictable. And that's what makes it interesting, in my opinion. And not to mention, bro, Paddy is huge for a lightweight. Like, I generally don't know how he still makes 155. Every time I see him in the weigh-in photos, I'm like, ain't no way that's the same guy who's walking around looking like a welterweight on vacation. But credit to him, he's always showing up on that weight, and when he rehydrates, you can see it. He's thick, he's strong in the clinch, and he uses that size really well when it comes to the grappling exchanges. And that's probably one of the most underrated strengths, is his grappling. I know people like to dismiss it because the names that he's beaten, like Tony Ferguson and Michael Chandler, yeah, those guys are clearly past their primes. I'm not going to sit here and act like those guys were career-defining wins against killers in their peak, but still, you can't fake good control. You can't fake, the scrambling ability. You can't fake the way he's able to smother those guys on the mat. Take dominant positions and stay calm while doing it. His transitions have gotten better. He floats better on top, way smoother than he used to be. And he's not just rushing to a jump on a submission like he did earlier in his career. So yeah, the grappling is real. That's part of his game. It's definitely growing. But here's the thing, and this is a big thing. The elephant in the room is Paddy's boxing. Like, let's just keep it real, man. His defense, it's still trash, man. Like, straight up. His head stays on the center line way too often, his chin is high, and his hands drop mid-combination. He doesn't move his feet enough after throwing. He'll land something and just stand there like the other guy's not allowed to hit him back. That's not going to fly against someone like Ilia, alright? And look, man, I'm not saying that Paddy's boxing is bad. He's definitely improved. He started mixing kicks, a little bit better. He uses his jab more, and he's not rushing for every exchange with loopy hooks, like he used to. But even in his most recent fights, we've seen him eat clean shots. Go back and watch that Chandler fight. Paddy did well overall, but Chandler was still tagging him in the pocket. He was able to land some clean counters, even take Paddy's back and drag him down. And that's Chandler, a guy who's known for being explosive offensively, but not exactly known for his tight technical boxing. And the same thing could be said about Jared Gordon in that fight. That was close, an ugly brawl that a lot of people thought Paddy lost. Why? Because he was even getting touched up over and over in those tight exchanges. So imagine what happens if he stands in front of a guy like Topuria who doesn't just throw bombs. He throws calculated, high-level combinations, and Ilia isn't swinging with wild haymakers. He's coming in with feints, setups, footwork, and power shots that land with purpose. And if Paddy doesn't move his head, doesn't pivot off the center line, or doesn't tighten up that guard, he's gonna eat something big. And Ilia's the kind of dude who doesn't need more than one opening to end a fight. Now, to be fair, Paddy's got heart, he's tough, he's durable, and sometimes that's enough to get through the early dangers. If he can weather the storm and get inside, maybe initiate the clinch, drag Ilia down, or even just slow the pace down, now we're talking about a different kind of fight. But if this fight stays standing, especially in those early rounds, that defense is going to get tested hard. And look, man, I'm not trying to bury Paddy. I'm just saying that if this fight becomes a boxing match, he's pretty much in trouble. The grappling and the size might help him, but if he doesn't fix those defensive holes, it won't matter how much he's improved. Ilia's not the guy to play catch up with you. He'll read you, download your rhythm, and then delete you. It's something else I gotta add, man. If you're breaking this fight down seriously, you can't ignore the little technical details that start to pile up when you look at Paddy's past fights. Like, one thing that really stood out when I rewatched this fight with Jared Gordon, and even the part with Tony Ferguson, is that Paddy doesn't know how to exit exchanges clean. He'll throw his shots, sometimes they'll even land, but then he kind of just stays there. There's no pivot, there's no angle, reset, or no slipping out. He'll just back up in a straight line or cover up and eat something clean. And I'm telling you right now, against someone like Topuria, that's gonna get him smoked. Ilia's not the type of dude to miss that opportunity. You linger in the pocket for just too long, he's gonna tag you with a 3-piece before you blink. Another thing that worries me is that Paddy's habit of throwing naked hooks. Like, he'll just load up a right hook without setting it up with a jab or without disguising it at all. No feints, no setups, and that kind of stuff that works against guys who aren't defensively sound, who aren't gassed. But Ilia will see that coming from a mile away and even counter it clean. He's got that shoulder roll defense, he reads patterns fast, and he doesn't need much of an opening to crack you. It's also worth noting, in both the Gordon and Tony fight, there were moments where Paddy looked generally confused when his opponents wasn't backing up. Like, when the fight didn't go exactly how he expected, his output dropped, and he started kind of waiting, you know? You could tell that he was thinking in there, trying to figure out what's next mid-fight. That's dangerous against someone who's not going to give you that time. Ilia's not going to let him pause and reset. He's going to pressure, cut angles, and throw heat until you either move or fall. Now, on the flip side, let's really talk about Ilia Topuria for a second, because while a lot of the spotlight has been on Paddy and what he needs to fix, we can't ignore just how complete of a fighter Ilia is right now. Like, I don't think people really understand how disciplined and layered this guy is. Okay, he's not just a knockout artist, he's not just a good boxer, he's someone who can shut down entire phases of your skill set and make you feel like you have nowhere to go. That's especially important when you start talking about the grappler side of things, because I already know some people are going to say, well, if Paddy can get it to the ground, he's got a shot. And yeah, that sounds nice on paper until you remember what Ilia just did to Charles Oliveira, who arguably is one of the most dangerous submission threats in the UFC history. We're talking about a guy who has the most submissions in UFC history, who wraps people in transitions, who pulls guard like it's 2005 and still finishes elite lightweights. And what did Topuria do? He didn't just avoid the danger, he completely neutralized it. Every time Charles tried to create a scramble or bait a trap, Ilia shut it down. He postured up, created space, stayed calm, and either stood back up or punished them with a slight ground and pound. No panic, no overreaction, just clean, calculated control. So, let me tell you something, man. If you think he's going to get flustered by Paddy throwing up a triangle or a loose armbar attempt from his back, it's not happening. He's too composed, too strong in positions, and more importantly, he's too smart. Ilia understands position before submissions. He knows when to disengage, when to stand up, when to pass, when to strike, and even before it hits the mat. Let's not act like Paddy is just going to easily drag this to the ground. Ilia has underrated takedown defense, especially when he's the one that's dictating the pace. He keeps his feet under him, he frames well in the clinch, and he's excellent at digging underhooks and reversing pressure against the cage. Now, if Paddy tries to shoot from range, Topuria can sprawl quick. If Paddy tries to initiate with a trip or a clinch dump, Ilia will frame off, circle out, and punish him with elbows or short hooks in close. The other thing people may overlook is that Ilia's physicality. He may not walk around as heavy as Paddy, but he's dense, he's compact, strong as hell in the hips. He's not one of those tall, lanky grapplers that Paddy can just bully. This is a guy who's built his style around efficiency and tight control. You're not going to outmuscle him unless you've got some serious horsepower and positional IQ. And Paddy, as good as he is in scramble areas, he still gives up positions in a lot of transitions. And that's going to get him in trouble against someone like Topuria, who doesn't give you a second chance once he gets on top of you. And look, man, this fight can still hit the ground. Ilia might even choose to take it there at some points, just to prove a point. But the difference is he'll be in control. He won't be reacting to Paddy's game. He'll be dictating the position, deciding when it happens, and choosing the terms. That's the key here. Paddy usually thrives in chaos. Topuria, he's built structure and forces you to fight within. And the second you step out of line, you're getting punished. So when you really line it up, the striking advantage, clearly Topuria. The grappling defense, proven. Takedown defense, solid. Fight IQ, high. Finishing ability, extremely high. There's just not a lot of openings Paddy can exploit unless Ilia completely fumbles the bag. And let's be honest, that's just not who he is right now. The guy is locked in. He's sharp, and unless Paddy pulls off something truly unexpected, I think this is Ilia's fight to win. Not because Paddy is trash, not because he hasn't improved, but because Topuria is just that damn good right now. He's operating on a different level than most of the divisions. So yeah, I pretty much doubt that Paddy can come even close to beating Topuria.